Welcome to the Home Business Podcast with Richard Capt'n Henderson, publisher of Home Business Magazine, and Sherilyn Colleen, managing editor. This how-to show helps you successfully operate your home-based business.
Greetings and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. I'm Richard Capt'n Henderson, your skipper at Home Business TV.
Hey, I'm Lynn, your co-host.
Let's gear for seeing Get It Away. After graduating from Texas Tech University, Alex Kurkowski went to work in the alcohol industry.
Then after 3 years of, as he calls it, drinking for a living, Alex transitioned to the pharmaceutical industry and then got an MBA.
So what's a newly minted MBA to do? He launched Tellinga, a personalized greeting card company.
We love startup stories, and Alex Kurkowski has an inspiring story that weaves success with helping aspiring artists.
His entrepreneurial story also shows that you can prosper in a startup that's not welded to the internet.
So hello, Alex Kurkowski. Welcome to our show.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so
So
much.
you are connecting in from the bustling metropolis of Houston, Texas today?
Of Houston, Texas. Yes, sir.
How's Houston treating you today?
It's probably a solid B-, I would say. It's rainy outside. There's really nothing significant or interesting that's really happened today. So besides obviously this podcast. So yeah, I'd say a solid B-.
Well, the podcast will bring it up to an A+ day then.
Well, let's hope so.
So Alex, how did you go from Texas Tech and alcohol into the startup world?
Yeah, so I've always kind of had this entrepreneurial spirit. I've been fascinated by entrepreneurship. You know, I just feel like that, you know, a lot of people are plugged into the system of going to college, graduating college, plugging into the real world, you know, having your 401k, having your house, having your family.
Present, check. I made that mistake.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's a mistake. I mean, for some folks, it definitely is not a mistake, but for others, perhaps for myself, it's somewhat of a mistake. And so I made that as well, at least for the first 10 years after I graduated from college. And I really wanted to just raise my own baby instead of raising someone else's baby, essentially, right? So I wanted to, you know, birth or launch a product that people could enjoy, that would make a meaningful difference, and that I could take and scale with. And, you know, at the end of a hard work day, or perhaps at the end of, you know, my life, I look back and say, you know, look what I created from idea to this point. Has been a very fascinating thing. And to me, as far as our careers are concerned, there's nothing better than to have that happen.
That's curious. You know, you went to Texas Tech, but just what did you study at a tech?
Just boring business stuff. I kind of just put a bunch of majors against the wall and threw some darts and just landed on marketing and economics double major. So pretty standard.
Just out of curiosity, when I went into that, actually I went out of the military into that traditional 401k thing. And I knew within like that first week, I got to maneuver out of this. And it took almost 5 years to maneuver out of it. Did you know, like right away when you got into, you know, you started your conventional career, the 401k job, did you know like that first week that, hey, long-term, I got to make some changes here?
No, not really. I have to be honest. I mean, it was cool just to buy my own car and pay my own rent at my apartment, right? So I just liked having money. I was able to afford groceries, not on my parents' dime, right? Like I did back in college. So I was kind of blinded by the minimal amount of money that I was making at that point. But I think, you know, back in the deep part of my mind, you know, I always thought eventually, you know, after I kind of go through this and I kind of, you know, become more familiar with the workforce, you know, I will develop something someday.
Oh, well, money can be an initial motivator, but, you know, Alex, you do have a unique business model. How did you come up with the idea to start Tellinga?
Sure. Yeah, this is very interesting. So I decided to pursue my MBA at Rice University roughly 3 years ago. And while maintaining a full-time career in the pharmaceutical industry, and then getting your MBA at Rice University proved to be a tall task. I didn't know how challenging it would be until I was right in the middle of it. And so about 6 months into the program at Rice, I was studying late one night, and I just started thinking, like, how much time am I spending working on school right now? How many hours have I spent up here, you know, stuck in a classroom, studying concepts of business, right? So, you know, I started thinking, you know, I'm missing a lot of time with friends and family. I'm not really getting a chance to connect with them anymore. And to take a break from studying, what I started to do, or what at least I did with my mom and my brother, is I drew little sketches. One moment was for my mom. She coined the nickname Queen Amidala, which is from the Star Wars movies, the first 3 Star Wars movies.
Right.
There was Queen Amidala, and she says, "You better listen to me. I'm Queen Amidala." And so I drew a sketch of her as Queen Amidala. It was like a little stick figure drawing. And then I put it in an envelope and sent it off to her. And then another illustration that I created was for my brother whenever he was at a Kansas City Chiefs training camp. And he was maybe 17, 18 at the time. We were in Wisconsin at their camp. And we were waiting to get Tony Gonzalez, which is a tight end for the Chiefs at the time's autograph. And he called out like as if he was like a 9 or 10-year-old boy, "Tony, Tony, Tony, please sign my ball. We came all the way from Houston, Texas for you to sign an autograph." And it's kind of one of those had to be there type stories, right? But him being 17, 18 years old, having chest hair and shaving every other day at that point, for him to sound like that, 8 or 9-year-old boy calling out to Tony, my family, razzed them for like the next couple years of his life for sounding like that and calling out to Tony Gonzalez. So I drew a picture of him kind of recreating that moment, and I sent that off to him as well, kind of a stick figure drawing. And the reason why I did this is just to really stay connected with them in kind of a fun way. I've always been a huge fan of snail mail. I used to write letters to my grandma whenever I was in junior high, and I figured this would be a nice like personal touch for them to go and check their mail and not really expecting it to receive a drawing. So I ended up telling some peers at Rice one evening what I was doing to keep in touch with my family, and one of my friends, we were both in an entrepreneurship class at the time, mentioned to me that perhaps I should use this and turn it into a company. And so that was essentially the birth of Tellinga. And officially what Tellinga stands for are the 2 words telling a, as in telling a story. So Tellinga.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. I mean, that's not a traditional way to get into the startup world, but boy, that works. So you definitely were doing something that you'd already kind of stumbled into. And then oftentimes, we have a great idea. You don't realize somebody else needs to tell you that, hey, this is a good idea. You like it because you enjoyed it, but, somebody else around you said, hey, there's a business model here.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I really didn't even know, or that other person didn't really know if there was a business model there. I just wanted to test the waters at first. And while having a full-time career and attending Rice, and then perhaps trying to start a company on top of that is a lot to bite off, right? That's a lot to chew on. So I at least wanted to try to create a company that was simple in nature, low cost, low funding, low IQ, that I could create and run with it. Obviously, at this point, looking back, it's been a lot harder than I thought it would be. But yeah, at the time, I didn't even know if it would work or if it would be something that people would enjoy. But good things have happened in the 14 months or so since we've launched.
I like that. Low cost, low money, low IQ. I'll quote you on that.
Exactly. Yep.
So
Yeah,
Alex,
I'm not trying to develop like a new electric car or a new pharmaceutical drug. I'm merely sending artwork via traditional standard mail to folks just to put a smile on their faces, right? So
hey, I think that guy that invented the pet rock made $1 billion. So what the heck?
Yeah, this is very pet rockish in nature. This is more of the male version of the pet rock, I would say.
Well, I think it's very innovative. So how does the Tellinga greeting card process work, and how do customers get involved in it?
Sure. I would say about 99% of the time, this is purchased as a gift from one person to the other. And so what they would do is log on to tellinga.com. They would select start a story. And then from there, they would choose a certain story length. We have 4 different products or 4 different lengths. One of the products is the 1-day story, which is just one illustrated card sent out one time. There's a 1-week story, which is 3 illustrations sent out every other day over the course of 1 week. A 2-week story, which is 6 illustrations every other day over 2 weeks. And then lastly, there's a 1-month story, which is 12 illustrations sent out every other day over 1 month. So someone would go in, they would find out which package or length is best for them that they wanted to order. And let's say, for example, they chose a 2-week story, which is 6 illustrations. From there, they would provide a description. And let's say that you and I, Richard, are best friends, and I'm buying this for you. And I obviously know that you're doing podcasts, and I say, Richard is an evil podcast host trying to destroy all startups and home businesses across the globe.
How'd you figure me out?
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm trying to make it fun for your listeners as well as for me telling the story. So Richard is trying to destroy all home businesses across the globe, and he's not really trying to help. Alex Kurkowski, his best friend, is a superhero trying to stop him. And then let's say I include Sherilyn in this, and Sherilyn's my sidekick, and we're both trying to stop you, or something like that. Then I upload a photo of all 3 of us And then I hit submit, and from there it gets sent off to a team of contracted artists. There's about 25 of them currently illustrating stories at Tellinga, and one of them receives that description. They receive those photos, and then they begin traditionally drawing out hand-drawn illustrations, and they send them out every other day for those 2 weeks. So to recap, 2-week story, crazy story about, you being an evil podcast host, upload photos, artist then creates that story, and every other day in a person's mailbox via traditional snail mail, they receive another hand-drawn, 100% organic.
Wow. I mean, so it's kind of like that, not really similar to where they used to have those novels where they'd kind of come out a chapter at a time. And, you use the customer to provide some drama and a story, and then you take it from there and then break it up into delivering like additional chapters of that story through cards over a short period of time. Kind of like they're going to the mailbox, waiting to get the next installment.
Yeah, exactly. I would say it's more of like a personalized storybook where, you get to be the lead character of the storybook. And if you were to rip out all the pages of that storybook and then take each page and snail mail it out every other day for a period of time, is kind of the best way to think and look at this.
Yeah, there's still something good about getting something in the mail. You can touch it and it's there. And I think, you can't get that same impact when you're looking specifically at a greeting card online. But let's look a little bit more about that. Startups always do mean dollars. How did you finance Tellinga? Were you able to raise significant startup capital for it?
No, not at all. I actually financed this in 2 different ways. Airbnb. I currently Airbnb out my house, or a certain portion of my house. And that happens, I'd say maybe my occupancy rate is about 75%. So I have a 4-story townhome.
Wait, Airbnb financing? I love it. I've never heard of that before. That's a great idea.
Yeah, Airbnb financing. That's number 1. Number 2, I justify all of the expenses associated with Tellinga by also mining cryptocurrency. And so I do both of those things, and that helps me spend the money that I do spend on Tellinga and help scale it as much as possible. Obviously, in the future, the goal is to raise capital, and I would say I'm looking to raise within the next 3 months or so to scale this to where it needs to be.
All right, so I got to get you on record here. You were able to do this without using any personal credit cards. That's amazing, because so many new entrepreneurs, you typically have to use personal credit cards, and we say it's okay. You just have to keep that into control. But it sounds like you were smart about this from the beginning, and stayed out of the personal credit card route.
Right. Yeah, I would say that I've actually made some mistakes and probably spent $2,000 to $3,000 in what I call mistake money, meaning it's the first time that I've created a company. Even with an MBA and workforce background, people are going to make mistakes, and I've made plenty of them. And sometimes that costs you money to understand the mistakes that you've made, and I've been able to learn from them. But yeah, I'm extremely frugal with my spend, and things have worked out pretty well.
Well, 2,000 to 3,000 is a rounding error. That's pretty good. I know some people have it very significant. It's into the tens of thousands of dollars before they got it in the right direction. So it sounds like it's been moving in the right direction from the start.
Absolutely, it has.
So how long did it take you to get Tellinga on a stable footing?
I'm still trying to do that, actually. I feel
it's always a journey. There's no destination.
Yeah, I feel like that launching, 14 months ago, I felt like I was kind of stuck in this prototype proof of concept phase for forever. And right where I thought that I had built this house and I was ready to start trying to sell this house to a tenant or someone that wanted to live in the house, I kept going back and finding improvements to be made. Ultimately it took me about 3 to 4 months to build to the point where it was an adequate platform for customers that I didn't know, no longer friends or family going on and purchasing stories for me to get off the ground, but for, real customers, people from across the globe are ordering this, which has been amazing. It took about 4 months to get to that point, and launching 14 months ago, I'm at a very confident spot right now where I'm actually pursuing partnerships and looking at raising capital.
Well, it sounds like you're out of that initial launch growth phase, and you're starting to kind of level out as far as the maturity. But that can set the foundation for a lot more growth, like getting more worldwide and penetrating your channels, saturating them more.
Yes, I'm extremely nervous and scared about this, but it's also very exciting at the same time. And the time is now, I would say. And I thought that this moment or this period of time would have been 6 months ago. But like I said earlier in the podcast, it's been so much harder than I thought. And I think that all of the entrepreneurs currently listening to this podcast are shaking their heads and agreeing with me and smiling, saying, yeah, if you haven't done it before, it looks easy. But once you start doing it, it's all the minute details that pile up that you never expect. And they definitely have. So,
right. Well, actually, you do have a unique snail mail business model, but we talked a little bit about, you do link in your customers through the internet online to upload their story and all. But do you link into online marketing and social media from the marketing end to push your marketing message out?
I do, and it's because I have to, and I kind of hate that I have to do that in a weird way because I created Tellinga. The core reason why I decided to start Tellinga is that this was going to be the anti-electronic, anti-digital company that, people can tap back into the tangible and physical and real nostalgic side of life, that everybody has a mailbox, right? But they don't often check it. Whenever they do check it, they often get junk mail or bills. So I wanted to create a platform that was kind of getting away from all the screens in our life, right? And it's been a lot of fun doing so. That at the end of a hard work day for folks, they go home, they check their mailbox, and they receive another part of that story. Has been a whole lot of fun. So whenever I talk about the more traditional side of life, it's hard to then turn around and market digitally, right? But that is the world that we live in, and in my mind, I justify it by saying, as long as we market, in a digital way, but we create the product in a very traditional, old school way, then we are good to go. So yeah, it's been a lot of, at this point, Google ads, social marketing. I've been on a few podcasts and other pieces of press that have helped grow.
Yeah, you can't get away from the internet.
So your Tellinga startup also helps aspiring artists. Can you talk with us about the support?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, the core reason was to tap back in the tangible and physical side of life. The second reason why I decided to start Tellinga is to create another platform for young aspiring artists to market and brand themselves and get their name out there as much as possible. Obviously, we want to create an awesome product for the customer and make them extremely happy, but there's been an overwhelming response with the artists that have wanted to come on board. Just recently, I submitted an Indeed artist candidate spot, and there were over 470 applicants over 10 days. And so I'm actually, as I'm scaling this, hiring more artists as we speak. And so the response has been great from them, not only initially and them wanting to come on board, but whenever they are immersed with creating stories for folks, they've really loved it and had a good time doing it. And we have one artist that's actually, or actually two artists that have put Tellinga on their resume, which is extremely humbling for me. Just because you're taking an idea, you're creating it, you're trying to help the artist as much as possible to get where they want to go from a leadership standpoint. And it's really cool to see them love the brand so much to the point where they're now putting it on their resume, which is a really powerful thing and humbling for me to see.
Yeah, I mean, you've clicked into a good niche there, because there's been a lot of loss of opportunity to artists with so many online graphic programs that, I mean, are just good enough so somebody can use them, but not having to, require an illustrated artist or a graphic artist. So, that's good. You're offering some opportunity there, but there's also a niche where they need more opportunities.
Right, and actually, the goal for the future of Tellinga is to continue onboarding.
Sorry, I'll just
Rookie mistake.
Oh.
I'm not even going to clip that out. My guests need to know.
Yeah, let it ride, baby. Let it ride. I like it.
Let it ride.
I'll get to that question about the future. I'll just kind of jump into it naturally. So, my issue on my end.
Now I turned off my ringer.
Technology nowadays. All right.
I'm just so disappointed. My goodness.
All right. So we were talking about.
And one of the goals for the future of Tellinga is to, continue to onboard artists as much as possible, but to do a couple of different things beyond that, right? One of them would be to open this platform up to be an Airbnb style model where artists can quickly onboard themselves through a verification process set in place, and they can have their own portfolio and lookbook of Tellinga stories that they've created before, and have customers go through and decide, hey, I want to choose this artist versus this one, because not every artist is built the same in the level of art that they're creating, number one, and number two, the style of art. So allow the customers to go through and decide which level and style of art that they want to choose, and allow the artist to price their work and what they think the market, values them at, right? So that's number one. And number two, to start onboarding writers, novelists, poets, perhaps, right, that are writing letters to folks, whether it be short stories or love letters. And the goal is really just to own the mailbox and to bring that back into the fold and to make it cool, or as much as one can perhaps make a traditional mailbox cool.
Well, I like this.
Really
you're welding your business model to online support, and having a good online platform to make it all work. But that's separate from the product you're delivering through snail mail. So that's a smart combination. Alex, it looks like you're off to the races. What are your plans for the future of Tellinga?
Right now, there's been a lot of interest from big online retailers in pursuing a partnership with Tellinga, an exclusive partnership where I'll be selling directly through that retailer. Number one. Number two, as I mentioned, an Airbnb model paired with onboarding writers as quickly as possible and scaling this as much as possible. I think, it's hard for me to even talk beyond both of those things because both of them require so much work and execution that is the future. And it's really looking at A or B and deciding which path is going to be the best path of growth and prosperity for the brand.
I think I think a big buyout in the future is probably over the horizon for you. But do you ever think of something crazy, like maybe going to Shark Tank? And it seems like the perfect thing to see on Shark Tank.
First of all, I hear that question a lot, and I always respond in the same way. Just know that I would have 100% confidence going on Shark Tank right now, based off the metrics and where we're at and how we can scale this. And I feel like that this brand everyone feels like their brand is right on the edge of greatness, but obviously I'm biased because I'm the founder, but I feel like it is right on the edge of greatness. And if I were to go on Shark Tank, I would take an interesting approach of not asking for a certain valuation equity. I would most likely do one of two things. I would either give away a portion of my company, 10 to 25% for free to one of the sharks, and let them decide which one of them is going to get that free equity, and let them sell me on why they think that they're the best person as a free partner and free valuation of them. Or I would offer something kind of like a Price is Right type of scheme where I say, hey, $1 gets you 25% equity stake in my company, and let there be a bidding process to develop there. And those are the two paths I would probably take with getting on Shark Tank. And now that I think about this might be a good little audition video for me to play out if I were to apply to them. That it would be a very interesting approach if I were to give away equity for free and let them sell me, or for me to price the company at $100 and give away a certain portion for say $1 or $2 and let them outbid each other. And I think that would make for great TV.
Hey, I'm ready to start the bidding right from here. So.
What's that?
I'm going to beat out Shark Tank. I mean, this is I think you're on the verge of something big here.
I hope so. And as I mentioned many times throughout the podcast, I've worked extremely hard on this. It's taken me way more time than I anticipated. It's still consuming me at this point. But things are looking better and better. And I have been shaped so much in the past year. And I learned so much through my MBA at Rice. But I feel like that I've learned 10 times more just by real world application of the academic knowledge.
There's nothing like the School of Hard Knocks.
You're exactly right. And that was a small portion of why I decided in the first place, is because I wanted to start applying a lot of the concepts I was learning in class. So absolutely.
Well, Alex Kurkowski, this has been a wonderful discussion on your snail mail startup. Do you have any final points you'd like to share?
No, I mean, just thank you so much, guys, for having me on. I appreciate it. You were great. If any of your listeners want to check out the website, or perhaps order a Tellinga story for the holidays, you can go to tellinga.com. That's the two words, telling A, smudge together, tellinga.com. And you can start your story today, and we would love to tell it. So thank you for having me, and have a good day.
Well, Alex Kurkowski, I called you Alex Tellinga. Look at that, man. I'm ready to bid. Alex Kurkowski, thank you for being such a great guest on the Home Business Podcast.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. To learn more about Alex Kurkowski and Tellinga, please visit www.tellinga.com or our podcast website for more information.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at our website, homebusinessmag.com.
Visit the website for information on advertising, subscribe to our newsletter. Please visit our sponsors. For more information, visit homebusinessmag.com or the expo at homebusinessexpo.com.
I'm Richard Capt'n Henderson saying anchors away.
We'll talk with you soon. Until then,
make it a great home-based biz day.